If you grew up in the 80s, chances are Alien was the movie your parents told you not to watch, which of course meant you had to watch it. The truth is, Alien technically came out in 1979. Disco balls were still spinning, bell-bottoms were gasping their last breath, and Star Wars had just made space the coolest thing ever. But while Alien premiered in the tail end of the 70s, it lived in the 80s. That's when the VHS copies got passed around at slumber parties, when older siblings scarred us forever, and when kids learned space wasn't about adventure and lightsabers. It was dark, claustrophobic, and filled with something very hungry. So today, let's rewind the tape and relive the trauma with 10 chilling alien facts that traumatized 80s kids. Grab your popcorn, keep an eye on the vents, and don't trust the cat. Number 10, the trailer that terrified without spoiling. Before Alien even hit theaters, it was already scaring people. The trailer is legendary because it broke all the rules. No dialogue, no plot, just creepy flashes of images, a pulsating metallic shriek of a soundtrack, and then silence, followed by the words, "In space, no one can hear you scream." That tagline alone became a schoolyard dare in the 80s. Kids would whisper it to each other at recess like it was some cursed phrase that summoned nightmares. You didn't even need to see the film. Just hearing those words was enough to ruin bedtime. Parents were rattled too. When the trailer first ran in theaters in '79, some adults literally walked out. They didn't even know what the movie was about, but they knew it was trouble. By the mid-'80s, thanks to VHS, Alien was everywhere. The trailer and tagline set the tone. This wasn't Star Wars. This was something darker. And if you grew up back then, you remember exactly how chilling it felt. And hey, if this is already jogging some nightmares loose, hit that like button now. It's easier than facing a chestburster. Number 9, the chestburster scene was real. Too real. We all know the scene. The crew sits around, Kane takes a bite, and suddenly his chest erupts in blood as an alien bursts through his ribcage. What makes it unforgettable is the raw horror on everyone's faces. And here's why. Ridley Scott didn't tell the cast what was really about to happen. He told them something shocking would go down, but not the details. So when the puppet exploded with real blood and guts, the actors were genuinely horrified. Veronica Cartwright got blasted full in the face and screamed so loud she fell backward. That wasn't acting. That was panic. Now imagine you're 10 years old in 1984 watching this at a sleepover. You thought you were getting cool space adventure, and instead you're watching a man explode like a horror piñata. You didn't just flinch. You carried that trauma with you for the rest of your childhood. It's no wonder this single scene became the stuff of legend. And trust me, if you were eating spaghetti while watching, you regretted it instantly. Number 8, H.R. Giger's nightmares became ours. Alien didn't look like any other movie monster. It was wrong. It was wet, biomechanical, and too realistic to laugh off. That's because the design came from H.R. Giger, a Swiss artist who basically lived in a haunted house inside his own head. His paintings blended sexuality, machinery, and death. They were so disturbing that some of the producers didn't even want him on the project. Ridley Scott saw Giger's art book Necronomicon and said, "This is it. This is our monster. And the rest is cinematic history." For critics, Giger was avant-garde. For kids in the 80s flipping through Fangoria or sneaking looks at VHS covers, he was the man who ruined sleep. Suddenly, every notebook margin was filled with doodles of slimy creatures with too many teeth. And here's the weirdest detail. Giger admitted the alien's design was partly inspired by erotic art, which meant kids were traumatized not only by what they saw, but by something they weren't even old enough to understand. Talk about double damage. Number 7, Ripley wasn't supposed to be a woman. Today, Ripley is a legend, one of the greatest movie heroes of all time. But here's a twist. In the original script, every character was written gender neutral. Ripley could have easily been a man. Enter Sigourney Weaver. Tall, commanding, tough, but vulnerable. She embodied Ripley in a way no one expected, casting her changed film history. Think about it. The 80s were dominated by hulking muscle guys like Stallone and Schwarzenegger. Then there was Ripley, not the biggest or the loudest, but the smartest and the most determined. She didn't just survive, she fought back. For little girls in the 80s, Ripley was proof you didn't have to be rescued. You were the rescuer. For little boys, she redefined what tough could look like. And by the time Aliens hit in '86, Ripley was cemented as a cultural icon. She didn't just fight the alien. She became the thing the alien should have been scared of. Number 6. Jonesy the cat almost got cut. Let's talk about Jonesy. Jonesy the cat, the real MVP of the Nostromo. Believe it or not, Jonesy was almost written out. Some producers thought having a cat on board a spaceship was silly, but Ridley Scott insisted, and thank goodness he did. Jonesy gave us one of the most iconic moments in horror, locked in his carrier, watching the alien kill Brett. And Jonesy, completely unbothered, that blank feline stare as if to say, "Not my problem, dude." Kids loved it. Jonesy was proof you didn't need to be brave to survive. Sometimes you just needed to stay in your box and let the humans deal with it. To this day, Jonesy has fan clubs, t-shirts, and memes. Not bad for a cat that almost got cut from the script. Number 5. The spaceship set smelled disgusting. On screen, the Nostromo looks grimy, sweaty, and claustrophobic. And here's the thing. That wasn't just movie magic. The set was sealed up, fog machines filled the air, the slime dripped everywhere, hot studio lights baked the actors, and to top it off, everyone smoked. The result? It smelled like absolute garbage. The actors hated it. The sweat you see dripping down their faces, that's not makeup, that's real. They were cooking in their costumes while trying not to gag. So when you watch Alien and start feeling itchy and uncomfortable, that's not just the tension of the film. You're picking up on the fact that the cast themselves were suffering in a stinky, suffocating spaceship. That sense of dread, 100% authentic. Number 4. The Xenomorph was almost transparent. Here's a strange one. Early designs for the alien were translucent. You'd see its organs moving inside like a giant slimy jellyfish monster. Camera tests were done, and it looked ridiculous. Instead of terrifying, it looked like something you'd find at a cheap haunted house. Even the crew started laughing. So they scrapped it and went with the sleek black design we know today. And thank goodness they did, because that shadowy, biomechanical look is what made it iconic. Now here's the fun part. Later on, other monster franchises actually used the translucent idea. Predator went invisible. The thing morphed into half-transparent goo. But Alien stuck with the glossy nightmare, lurking in the shadows. And that's why it remains one of the scariest designs ever put to screen. Number 3, the Chestburster was made of real animal guts. As if the Chestburster scene wasn't traumatizing enough, here's the gross truth. It was filled with real animal parts from a butcher shop. Fish guts, organs, blood, all stuffed into the puppet. When it exploded, the smell was so strong that the actors gagged on set. Veronica Cartwright nearly vomited. The horror you see on their faces isn't just acting. It's the genuine reaction to a room filled with the stench of rotting meat. For kids watching on VHS in the 80s, it was almost too real. You didn't just see the gore, you could practically smell it through the TV. It was one of the most revolting, unforgettable moments in cinema. And it scarred every kid who dared to watch it. Number 2, the title was almost Star Beast. Alien. One word, simple, terrifying, iconic. But it almost wasn't called Alien at all. The original title was Star Beast. Yeah, Star Beast sounds less like a groundbreaking sci-fi horror and more like an action figure you'd get at the dollar store. Star Beast, now with laser claws. Thankfully, someone noticed the word alien kept popping up in the script, and they made the change. Imagine the difference. Kids in the 80s wouldn't be whispering about Alien at sleepovers. They'd be making fun of something called Star Beast. Sometimes one word can make all the difference in pop culture history. Number 1, Alien almost didn't happen. Here's the weirdest fact of all. Alien almost didn't exist. The script floated around Hollywood for years. Studios thought it was too slow, too dark, too weird. Then Star Wars exploded in 1977, and suddenly every studio wanted a space movie. Alien was greenlit, pitched as Star Wars with horror. But when Ridley Scott got to work, he made sure it wasn't anything like Star Wars. This wasn't about adventure. This was about fear. The Nostromo wasn't the Millennium Falcon. It was a rotting, haunted house drifting through space. And when Alien finally hit theaters, it didn't just scare people. It created an entirely new genre, science fiction horror. For kids discovering it on VHS in the 80s, Alien wasn't just a movie. It was a warning. Space wasn't fun anymore. Space was a trap, and something was waiting in the dark, ready to tear you apart. So there you have it. 10 chilling facts about Alien, the so-called 70s movie that haunted the entire 80s. This wasn't just another sci-fi flick. It was the movie that made kids side-eye air vents, question their cats, and never trust a plate of spaghetti again. But now we want to hear from you. Which of these alien facts blew your mind the most? Was it the chestburster stuffed with real animal guts, Ripley almost being written as a man, or the fact that this classic was nearly called Star Beast? Drop your memories and pics in the comments, because half the fun of these videos is hearing your stories too. And if this trip back into VHS-era nightmares hit you with that old feeling, like being at a basement sleepover with the lights off and the volume too loud, then make sure you hit that like button. Smash subscribe while you're at it, because we've got plenty more nostalgia ready to crawl out of the vents. Right now you feel all fuzzy and nostalgic, yeah? For this feeling to last forever, you have to hit the like and subscribe button. Because with Box Set and Chill, the 80s and 90s never end.